Hello, this is going to be the production breakdown of my track Longest Day. So this is actually the last song I composed for the album, and I knew I wanted to have some upbeat songs, and I really wanted to use my ukulele, so I thought I'd have a crack at making a kind of chilled, clubby ukulele song. This song, it really is just based around 3 chord shapes pretty much on the ukulele. So I'll go through the different shapes, and then we'll go through the song and we can look at all the different elements and layers that I added to the ukulele. So here are the 3 shapes that pretty much the whole of this song is based on. So I just like the sound of them. They're kind of nice and light and airy and have a chilled vibe about them. And so when I recorded the ukulele, I've got it plugged in with the DI, but I also set up this mic as well, just because I like to mix a DI sound with a mic outside, just because with these piezo pickups, they can sometimes sound quite brittle or a bit harsh. So I find just having a microphone set up in front of them, you catch more of the actual kind of warmth and tone from the instrument. So for the intro, I just kept it nice and simple and played little arpeggios of them chords. So I was happy with them 3 chords, and then I just started experimenting with the rhythm with my right hand, and then also trying to add in a little melody to create a verse section, and this is what I settled on. I was really happy with adding in kind of little pull-offs and hammer-ons and slides and everything, just to add some variation to them 3 chords. Because the ukulele is quite a high-pitched instrument, I wanted some kind of lower frequency elements to be a part of it. And so that's what I added with an acoustic guitar. So that acoustic guitar line, it's just supporting what the ukulele is doing. And yeah, having that lower frequency there just helps to kind of fill out the space and helps to fill out that low end a little bit. So I'll play the uke with the acoustic guitar. And so with the chords of that acoustic guitar, I got them panned left. And so then I knew I wanted to add another element panned right, just because the ukulele is right bang in the middle, because that's the main focus of the song. And so I always like adding kind of wider elements to either side, just to help kind of widen the overall sound and to reinforce what the ukulele is doing. So when the verse repeats the chord progression, I kept the acoustic guitar chords going, but I knew I wanted to reinforce more of the melody of what the ukulele was playing. And so that's where I'd bring in another acoustic guitar, pan to the right, and it's kind of just mimicking the melody that the uke is playing. I'll mute the ukulele and we'll just hear the 2 supporting guitars. So definitely that lead guitar, super reverb, just because I didn't want it to be competing with the ukulele. So chucking that reverb on just pushed it towards the back of the mix. So if we hear that with the uke, so the other elements that I added into the verse was some bass. So with the bass guitar, here it is. So nothing fancy, just following the root notes of the chords. But also what I added as well was a nice little synth to go with it. So a very nice wide synth. Again, I'm trying to fill out the space of the mix, and having the bass nice and mono in the middle, it left room for that wider element to be brought in. And it's just playing pretty much exactly the same notes that the bass is playing. And then another thing that I like to add in most of my songs is some sub bass, just because I love that super low end. And what I've got here, I've called it a sub kick. It's just a sine wave where I'm automating the release of it. Again, just to kind of help it mimic what the bass is doing. And so that just kind of helps bring in that second repetition of the ukulele and just, yeah, adds a bit of oomph to it. And percussion wise, for the verse, it only comes in on the last repetition of the chord progression, and it's just some very simple kick drums, and I'm just increasing the drum tone here, so I'm automating it, so it's going from kind of a bit more subdued to a little bit kind of firmer and bigger. And I love adding reverse elements to anything in any of my productions, and so what I've got here is the kick sample, which I would have exported and then brought it back in, and I've reversed that. It really helps to bring in that kick element. Final elements here, I've just got loads of impacts and rises just to help with that atmosphere and to really exaggerate when certain elements get introduced into the verse. So let me play the whole of the verse now. Yeah, with the verse, the ukulele is definitely taking the lead there. We've got very subtle pad added to it, and we've got some nice guitars panned left and right, just adding some chords to the ukulele, which is helping with that lower frequencies. And then the other acoustic guitar is more reinforcing the melody that the ukulele is playing. And the bass, very straightforward, just playing root notes. And the percussion, a kick every bar, and then some rises and impacts to kind of help with the flow of the verse. Cool, so that brings us to the pre-chorus of the song. And so I stuck with the same chords, but I definitely wanted to change the rhythm to help bring up the energy of the song. And this is what I settled on. So using exactly the same chords. just a slight variation, adding the little finger and stretching that across. And what I liked with that is I was leaving a lot of room in between the chords, and so that was a nice opportunity to chuck in a new melody. So I used the same methods and techniques that I applied into the verse, just by adding fingers, removing fingers, using other techniques like slides in there, just to add a nice variation to the pre-chorus. And so now this is where, with the bass elements, they're really just kind of hammering in that main rhythm that we've got there. So I've got this nice wide synth. And the bass guitar. And then to really get that nice low end into it, using what I've called the sub kick again. So super low. So that adds, just a lot of low end to it to really help with the energy of that pre-chorus. And this is also where the drums get a bit more busy. So the kick drum is following the bass, and then I got this nice offbeat open hi-hat sound, and I have a nice clap, a wooden or a rim sort of sound. So stacking them up really just helps it cut through. What I like to do with my drums, with this main drum here, it's, very electronic, let's say. We're not really trying to aim for that kind of realistic sounding drums. We're just looking more for impact and punch. But what I like to do, I do like to layer it up with some actual kind of nice sample drums. And a lot of times it's probably more going to be the cymbals or the toms that I like to use. And so in this example, I program that nice kind of little ride feel, and then a nice cymbal crash hit. And so I chucked that in there to mimic and follow along what the uke was doing. So just to help with the impact of that little lead line from the uke. And I've got some more reversed elements in here. So I've got a reversed clap and the reversed kick as well. And what I do, probably with 99% of my productions, whatever kind of drum sampler I've got, I will always duplicate that and create a heavily reverbed version of that, just because I love huge reverb snares coming back from when I used to make dubstep like 10-15 years ago. So what I've got here is the clap and kind of rim snare sound from the main drums, but I've got that heavily reverbed. And so I exported that and reversed it, and that will help to lead us into that sound. And if I add the normal drums to it, and another cool thing that I'm doing in the drums there, actually, I just listened to, it was a new Dr. P song. Again, going back to the old dubstep days. He released some new music and I was checking it out. And I noticed that he's actually playing with the panning of the kick, which is, I suppose, something which I haven't heard too much, because a lot of times you tend to keep your kick right bang in the middle. So I thought that was cool. And so I kind of copied that and chucked it into here. And so that's what these three things here are doing. They're just automating the panning of some elements there. Yeah, so it's the kick and the clap. So they're going like left, right, and then I bring them back into the middle. And then also got the same rises and impacts. These reverse elements, they're very, very good to help with transitioning between two different sections. So a lot of the times towards the end of every section, I'm always going to have some reversed elements there. So that brings us to the chorus of the song. Yeah, using the same chords so far throughout the entire song. And yeah, really just hammering that rhythm. So that's the main rhythmic theme, you could say, for the song. So with the chorus, always love to pan whatever elements I'm using super wide, just to make that section feel a lot bigger, and it kind of helps with the impact of it as well. So the ukulele, panned that hard left, and then to fill up the right side, I'm playing exactly the same chords as the ukulele, but I'm playing that on my acoustic guitar, just to add a slightly different tone, so it's not ukulele on the left and the right. So giving that a very nice wide feel. And I knew, because this is my attempt at a kind of chilled clubby song, I definitely wanted to have a nice big synth bass element there. And so that's what we've got here. Again, I still wanted the uke to be the main point of interest with this. So having the gaps in between the chords of the ukulele made a perfect space for that wide synth to come in between. And then to back up the bass, we've got a bass guitar and my sub kick in there as well. I really like what I came up with on the bass. I came up with this bass idea first and then programmed this bass synth to mimic it. So I'm just playing it very staccato, so very short and jabby, and just kind of playing with an octave, really. So with the bass synth. And then, yeah, the sub kick is just sitting there super low. And so now what I've done with the drums, I actually found a nice sample within Reason. So they have what they call a Dr. Octarex. And so this is just a very cool kind of like loop sampler. And so I found a nice loop that fit with the song, but I like to be able to add little drum fills and kind of mix it up if I want. And so you can do that within Dr. Octarex, but I suppose I just like a bit more control over that. So what I've done, I just reprogrammed the loop. So I've got the kick and the snares and the open hi-hat on this one drum sampler. So a very standard kind of house club beat. But then I've got these hi-hats just on a separate lane. And so what I really like there is that it's playing kind of like a triplet or a swung kind of feel there, which I know if I was programming the drums myself, I probably wouldn't have come up with that. But it creates this nice kind of bounce to the drum beat. And also what I like from finding a cool loop, but then you reprogram it and remake it yourself, is that you can then change the sound of any of the samples. And then also what we've got in the percussion, we've got some reversed elements again. So we've got a reversed clap sound and a reversed cymbal sound as well, just to really help with the energy during that section. And another thing, which was the first time I tried out in this song, was with a lot of kind of house and clubby music, you're going to sidechain quite a lot of your elements to the kick, just to really help that kick punch through and feel kind of like nice and big. And so what I'd done, this could be a lazy way about it, but I just had this nice crash sound, and I chopped it for every kind of quarter note there, and then just done a little fade in to mimic sidechaining it. I found this just to be a nice quick way to get that sidechained sound to it. To add some variation during the chorus, I added this little synthy element, and what I'd done, I played like a nice little lead part, and then I exported it, and I used that same technique that I applied onto that crash sample. So you can see I've chopped it up, and we've got little fades in there just to, yeah, kind of create a side-chained feel to it. This is quite subtle, really, but it's just to add some nice variation to that repetition in the chorus. And so I definitely knew for the chorus, I wanted to duplicate it so it went on a bit longer. And by this point, I was thinking it's time to add a proper kind of like lead element to it. And so this is where I cracked out the acoustic guitar. With the solo, yeah, it's really just based on a minor pentatonic scale, pretty much. And as you can hear, loads and loads of reverb on there. Which is another common thing I'm seeing from making these videos, but it just helps to add that kind of atmosphere and the vibe that I'm going for. And another thing that I added to this kind of big second repetition of the chorus was the wide synth sound. Instead of that happening in between the chords from the ukulele, I now changed it to where it's just playing all of the time. So now that synth and the bass and the sub kick, they're all just doing the same thing. And I found just adding in them couple extra notes with the wide synth, it just helped with the energy with that section. Cool, so that leads us into the second verse. And so the second verse is pretty much the same as the first verse. One of the changes I made was adding some variation to the ukulele part. So again, sticking with the same chords and just varying the melody in between them chords slightly, just to make it a little bit different from the first verse. With the acoustic guitar, we've got the chords on the left. On the right, we've got the other guitar helping to reinforce the melody of the uke. And I'm bringing back that wide synthy bass element to it as well. And really that's just mimicking what the bass guitar is playing. And the bass is exactly the same in both of these verses. And we've got a little sub kick here just to help kind of kick off that second verse. Yeah, just to really thicken up that low end. But coming from the chorus, I wanted to keep the percussion going, but I stripped it down a little bit just to leave some room to build up to for when we get to the next pre-chorus and chorus. Cool, so that brings us to the second pre-chorus. And so with this, the uke is playing exactly the same thing, but I did want to add some variation to it. And so the variation I applied was more in the percussion. And so this is where I took the kind of more real sounding drums that I've got there, and I just programmed a simple beat, and I've automated some filtering on there. So varying the rhythm just helped to keep that section not sounding too copied and pasted. Another variation that I've applied there is with the ukulele, instead of keeping it just bang in the middle of the mix, this is where I've kind of had some pan super left and I've brought in the guitar pan super right. So I'm playing about with the width of the uke there. So on their main impacts, nice and super wide. And then for the little kind of melodic runs in between, I go back to just being nice and in the middle of the mix. So let's just listen to the uke and the guitar in that part. So I think it's nice just playing about with the width of the ukulele there. So that brings us into the second chorus. And with this, melodic wise, there isn't too much difference. So the main uke is exactly the same. And the wide guitar as well, that's exactly the same. One little thing I added in is I played on my guitar what that little synth line was doing. So I'm just layering up the synth element with me playing it on the guitar, just to get a bit more of that plucky attack in there, just to bring that a little bit more to the forefront of the mix. So that's one little variation I added into the beginning of that second chorus. And so the second part of the chorus, that is exactly the same as the first chorus. And so that leads us into the bridge of the song, because by this point we've heard verse, chorus. So by that point, if we went into another verse, maybe it might start to feel a little bit monotonous or a bit repetitive. And what I like to do quite a lot of the times, if I'm struggling to come up with a new section for the bridge, I'll grab the intro and drop that in for the bridge, and then I might vary it here and there. And this is a nice example of that. So playing pretty much exactly the same thing as the intro, only variation is instead of doing the little strum for that last chord shape, I carried on with the arpeggio. And now this is where I wanted to play about with ping-ponging delays. I just thought that was a cool way to fill up the space in between them little arpeggios of the chords there. And I'm automating the amount of reverb on the ukulele as well, just because by this point of the song it's been quite intense and in your face. So I wanted to strip out all the percussion, and also to create more of a sense of space, increase that reverb on the uke. And so that leads us into the final chorus, but I didn't just want to copy and paste the chorus again, just because at this point, the first and second choruses are pretty much the same. And so this is where I just come up with a slight variation with the rhythm with the ukulele and the guitar chords. And then it leads us into the chorus where the lead guitar comes in. So yeah, that's pretty much the song, really. So this is another song of mine where, I've kind of found a chord progression that I like, and I've just stuck with it. And so the variation is all more to do with the right hand, with the picking patterns or the rhythm that I'm playing. And then with the left hand, it's just experimenting, trying to chuck in some little kind of lead melody lines. And I feel like that's enough variation to have hopefully what you think is an interesting song and doesn't feel too monotonous. So thanks for checking out this production breakdown. Hopefully you found something of value, or you just found it interesting. Thank you for watching it, and check out my song Longest Day.